And hello from Lights and Gear. I am back with another flashlight review, and today is one of the latest lights from the folks at Astrolux. This is the S43. And as you can see from the top of the box here, the rest of the box is right here, but as you can see, it usually comes in a box like this, which is kind of almost recycled. And as you can see on the end of the box, it does tell you which one it is. This one, not so much that it's the S43, but it comes in a couple of different versions of LEDs. This happens to be a Nichia 219C, of which there are 4 LEDs, or you can get it, or you might be able to get it in the XPG3 as well. Now, this version is a cool white, and this is a neutral white. And a lot of people like neutral white, and you know, they have a nice tone and everything, a nice tint. So this happens to be the Nichia. So anyway, that's enough looking at the side of the box. The actual contents of the box are right here. Flashlight is in my hand. Let's just look here briefly at the instruction manual, which does give you the basic parameters here right at the bottom of the manual, where it says 2100 lumens is what you'll get with an XPG3, and this one happens to be 1600 lumens with the Nichia. So there's the light. Looks a little smaller perhaps on the front of the manual than it does in my hand, huh? Well, that's because of the accessories that it has in here, which will allow you to either make it smaller or make it larger to accommodate an 18650 battery. And you do so by using the little extension tube here, or this is kind of like a reverse extension, because with that, of course, it'll shorten it down. So you can take out the center tube here, replace it with this one, and then you can use a smaller battery, such as an 18350, which I have right here. So I do prefer to use batteries like this instead of a CR123 or a 16340. They do operate a bit better. So this would be my recommendation if you want to use the small tube and a smaller battery. But of course you'll get better runtime with an 18650. Elsewhere in the package you have a regular kind of a lanyard here, which you'll see with a lot of lights. You'll get a couple of spare O-rings, they're right here, and you'll also get an attack hammer, which attaches to the bottom of the light. So you put the attack hammer in here, and if you need to attack something with it, you can do so with this because it's kind of sharp. Although for me, I think it's kind of dangerous to keep it on there all the time, so I do take it off. But anyway, that's your choice there. Should you ever need to attack something, you have an attachable hammer. So anyway, within the manual, it does give you some basic information. And there's a larger manual available which you can get, which I'll show you that in a few moments. But here it does give you the basic information using this particular LED, and which means that the beam distance is about 148 meters. It's impact resistant to 1.5 meters, and it's IPX6 for water resistance or / waterproof, not IPX8 but IPX6. So, and there are your other parameters there. And for the other LED, that's what you get with that. So there are 2 different operating systems with the light, and I can get to the other one here after I briefly show you what you can do with it in its default mode, which is the way it is when you receive it. And that means it's a ramping flashlight, so there are no clickable modes in the default mode. It's just a ramping flashlight, so it goes from low to high and high to low very smoothly, which is, in my mind, the best way to operate it. And so anyway, yeah, let me show you the, well, at least we'll go into the details of the light here, which we haven't done yet. Here's your switch, which of course does everything. The switch is illuminated in green and red. And it does have a USB charger on it, which is right here, so you can connect the charger and charge any type of rechargeable battery in it. While it's charging, this light is red, and it'll stay red while it's charging, and then it'll go to green when it's finished. As you can see from the light here, it is rather attractive with some nice cooling fins. The pocket clip would also normally be inside the accessory package that I showed you. So you can put that on, and this works fine with this tube or this tube. You can still use it just the same. The bottom, of course, is flat, except for the connector there for the attack head, and it table stands tail stands, at least on a nice flat surface, it'll do so just fine. Here are your LEDs. These are the 4 Nichia, and they do a great job. I'll show you the beam in a second. It's obviously a very flood type flashlight. It's not focused at all. It has a nice clean wide beam, which is why you get a little less throw, but very nice. Anyway, I've already reviewed a couple of lights like this in the past with similar Nichia LEDs, and you can check those out in my reviews as well. Here's inside the head, and inside the bottom is a spring. You can, of course, remove the battery by taking the tail cap off, but this way is faster. At least I think it's faster, and it doesn't get in the way of the clip while you're removing it. So I'll put a battery in here. IMRs work very well as long as they don't have too much of a flat top. The light is kind of fussy if the connector is kind of sunken inside the battery, so it works well if there's a little bit of a head onto it there. But it does seem to work quite well with IMR batteries and is a little less finicky. As soon as you turn it on, you'll get a flashing green here to indicate that it is working. Also flashes from the front. And the green light here is on at all times while the flashlight is off, until, of course, you unlock it. So there is an unlocking, there is a lock and an unlock mode on it. And there's also another way you can do that by kind of pressing it quickly, kind of like that, and then it'll go out. This is the same kind of user interface which is on one of the BLF lights that I've already reviewed. And then if I give it one press again, it comes right back on again, which is nice. So it'll lock out that way with a very quick press, like that. Oops, there I got turbo mode. Okay, well, you can do it that way, or you can press the button 4 times quickly, and you can also lock it out that way. That's the official lockout, is pressing the button 4 times, and then it's officially locked out that way, and then you have to press it 4 times again to unlock it. But that little quick press like that, sometimes, if done correctly, there, it worked for me that time. It'll actually take the illuminator off that way as well. But to turn it on is just one simple press, and to turn it off is another simple press. But right now, let's talk about the actual ramping of it. So I'll turn one of these lights off. And even when it's already on, like this, and already halfway up, you can actually turn it on in the very lowest moonlight mode if you want. And for that, I have to be in the off position, and then I just give it a quick little holding press for about a second, and then you get instant moonlight or instant lowest mode, right away. But in any event, to always turn it off is just one simple press like that. And it has mode memory, so it'll always remember the last mode it was on, and even if you're just using it on that quick moonlight mode, it'll still remember the last mode you had it on before that, which was probably not moonlight, which is nice. And there's also a instant turbo mode on here as well. And for that, all you have to do is double click at any time, and you'll get to instant turbo like that. And that'll work whether it's off or on. And this head starts getting quite warm too after only a few brief seconds of being in the turbo turbo mode. So the ramping, as you can probably guess, is done pretty simply. Just hold onto the button, it'll go up to the top, and then hold it again, it'll go down to the bottom, and you can actually have it going in 2 directions almost at once if you want. It'll go back and forth between up and down, as long as you press the button quickly after releasing it. If you let it sit for a few seconds and then do it again, it'll continue going in the last direction it was going in. And it's funny, the head does get very hot. And when I was demonstrating it there in turbo, the head does get hot, and it's still a little bit warm. So that is kind of a downside to the light, I guess, that it gets quite warm very fast due to that 1600 lumen output. But if you leave it like this in the ramping mode, it's a very simple light to operate, as you can see. And I already showed you the instant moonlight, the instant turbo. Oh, there's also a battery check. I forgot to mention that. You can check the voltage of the battery anytime. I believe, though, you do have to have the light off to do that. And you just press the button 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then it'll start blinking the voltage of the battery, and you may have seen this in other flashlights as well. And it'll just blink the voltage. You got to count it, of course, as it's going. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's telling me it's 3.9 volts. And if you let it continue, it'll just keep doing it. So if you miss counting it the first time, you can catch it in the second or third round going. It'll just continue going. But if you want to turn it off at any time or stop the voltage counter, just give it one click blink and it'll shut off. So anyway, that's the basic operation of the light. And as I say, when you get it the first time, it's already in the ramping mode. But there is an entirely different user interface that's available on this light. And as I said before, it has kind of like the same software as some other lights that I've tested, and I believe as the BLF as well. So you can go into a whole different interface and change all kinds of settings on it if you want, because there's actually a whole set of strobe modes available, plus a bike mode and so forth. They're all hidden because they're all in the other user interface, which of course wipes out the ramping completely, and it goes to a regular mode change light. So to do that, I'm not going to show it to you, but I'll show you the instruction page for it in a second. But in order to do that, you have to press and hold the button for about 16 seconds and keep holding it, and then it will start flashing wildly, and then you have to follow the instructions and press the switch in the various methods that need to be pressed in order to do what you need to do. But I printed out the page here for the alternative UI, and you can see this at banggood.com, who was, by the way, nice enough to furnish me with the flashlight. So you can go to visit banggood.com and pick one of these up if you like for a reasonable price. And there's also links to these alternative instruction manuals on there that you can print out. But these are all the different things you can do with the light in the other interface. There are several strobe modes. You can choose between 7 or 8 different levels of moonlight and so forth and so on. So there's all kinds of changes in here you can do to customize it to your own specifications if you want to change, or if you want to experiment rather with the other user interface. But personally, for me, I think the ramping is just fine. I mean, you don't have to buy it for this. You can just buy it for the ramp and leave it as the ramp, because it still allows you to do whatever you want to do. If you want strobe modes and so forth, then you'll pretty much have to go by the other interface to get to something like that. But anyway, this does go into detail, as you can see, to the greatest extent possible. But that's what you can do with the Astrolux S43. Now, as an added attraction to this video, I've also taken a moment here to unscrew the regular cap and put the small one on to show you the size of it when you are using the adapter tube. Now, I can put the pocket clip on here as well, and that will go right down here on the bottom, and it still works just as fine as it does. It just comes up a little higher, as you can see. Comes up here when using it on the smaller tube. Now, the other thing to be aware of is the tube may look this. Let me just unscrew this for a second so you can see. The tube is actually not quite the same side, or not quite the same size on both ends. It has a tapered. It's slightly tapered. And the thing about it is, if you do decide to use the small tube, it'll only go on one specific way. If you do it the other way, the light will not work. So, as I said before, it works pretty well with most of these IMR batteries, these 18350s. And here is the tube. And again, I have to take it off everything here to show you. But the whole purpose of it is that it's slightly tapered, and it may look the same, but it's not. This end is narrower than this end, and if you kind of hold it up closely and examine it, you can see that, but ever so slightly. But the narrower end, the tapered end, has to go into the tail cap, If you put it the other way around, the light will not work. Even though everything tightens up just the same and it looks fine, and you go to put the head on and the head tightens fine, no batteries will work that way. For some unknown reason, even though this screws on just fine in the tail cap at either end, it will not work at all unless the smaller end is put into the tail cap. So once inserted the right way and without slipping out of your hand and dropping it, it will work just fine. It is a nice flashlight. Of course, the outdoor pictures are on my website at lightsandgear.com. I would advise you head over there and take a look and see what it looks like outside. Astrolux puts out some nice lights. I haven't had anything relative to complain about in the other ones that I have reviewed. This one is no exception, except for the fact that it gets deathly hot when it's up on the highest mode. But it does do some nice things, and so anyway, Astrolux S43, that's been our flashlight for today. If you like this video, let me know below. Questions and comments, of course. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this today. Have a good one, and thank you very much for watching. Take care.